Hello, welcome to another episode of CFB Index Bytes. My name is Thomas Erdösi, Head of Product at CF Benchmarks, and today we're going to talk about the CF Classification Series. And I am joined today by Cristian Isac, who is the product manager responsible for the series. Hi, Cristian.
Hi, Thomas.
So, Cristian, can you kick us off with a brief intro into the CF Classification Series, please?
The purpose of these indices is essentially to provide thematic portfolio solutions that passively track specific cryptocurrency sectors and theme. So what this means is they allow investors to gain a sort of focused exposure to areas like centralized finance, DeFi for short, just as an example. Now, why is this relevant to investors? One might naturally ask. Well, these kind of indices are very efficient at helping investors to identify thematic investment opportunity. They're very efficient in making portfolio optimization and diversification easier, and they do so by targeting specific market segments. And last but not least, I would like to talk about how we achieve all that. And we essentially do so by leveraging our proprietary CF digital asset classification structure, or CF DACS for short, which is basically a framework that fundamentally ensures digital assets are categorized consistently and accurately. And just to give you a slightly deeper understanding of the purpose of the DACS, it essentially provides a robust system for classifying digital assets into distinct categories, subcategories, and segments. So 3 different taxonomy levels, and very importantly, their classification is all based on the usage and adoption of the underlying software protocols.
Thank you, Cristian. That makes sense. And can you now maybe walk us through some of the thematic indices that CFB currently provides?
Well, first we have our category indices, and these indices are essentially designed to track the performance of specific categories or subcategories or segments within the DACS. For example, the CF Smart Contract Platform Index tracks the performance of smart contract platforms, which is, as most of us know, are a key pillar of the digital asset space. Next but not least important, we have our sector indices, which offer a more granular thematic portfolios and that are comprised of digital assets applied to traditional industries, or to what we refer in the DACS as sector category. So for example, finance or energy, all these kind of traditional industries that are familiar with us from our day-to-day would fall under this category. In particular, here at CFB, we provide the CF DeFi Index, which tracks the performance of decentralized financial services. The CF Digital Culture Index, tracking the performance of protocols involved in digitizing cultural experience and artifacts.
That makes sense, Cristian. And what would you say are some of the key differentiators of these indices relative to perhaps other indices in the market?
Well, the first differentiator standing at the core of our classification series, and as mentioned earlier, is our proprietary CF DACS, which basically ensures precise categorization. The second one is the unique architecture of our indices, namely that of sector-based ones, which are comprised of 3 distinct sub-portfolios. And we designed it this way so that these sub-portfolios ensure, consistent exposure to all key elements of the value chain that is needed to deliver sector-specific products. Namely, they focus on the sector itself, that is sector-based assets that we mentioned earlier, and this is the first and the core sub-portfolio. Then the settlement chains for these assets as the second sub-portfolio. And finally, the blockchain services utilized again by these sector-based assets as the third sub-portfolio. Now, onto our next and third differentiator, we have our weighting methodology, where we implement a capped free float market capitalization weighting approach. And we basically do so to ensure diversification benefits are present in our portfolios. And coming up on our last differentiator, I would like to highlight that these indices are regulated under the UK benchmarks regulation, which means that they bolster robust governance and compliance, making them ideal for building financial products around them.
Thank you, Cristian. And to finalize, could you share what some of the use cases might be of these thematic indices?
Well, first and foremost, they provide cryptocurrency thematic exposure, and therefore, this is especially valuable for products like ETF and ETPs, which effectively offer an efficient way to access these distinct market themes. Secondly, these indices serve as critical tools for benchmarking performance. So what I mean is, whether it's evaluating actively managed funds or individual investments, they provide an objective standard for comparing performance. Third, they support portfolio diversification, and they do so by tracking unique segments of the digital asset market, as we discussed earlier. And in turn, this allows investors to construct well-diversified portfolios aligned with specific sectors while reducing concentration risk. And last but not least, they are a powerful resource for market analysis, effectively capturing performance and trends across different market segments. These indices essentially help investors better understand the dynamics of the blockchain economy. So together, all these use cases highlight the versatility of our indices in navigating the fast-evolving crypto landscape.
Thank you, Cristian, and thank you for all the listeners joining us today. If you're interested in further content like this, please check out the link on screen now for our other content on the CFB website.